house. This is the crowned bee, and I'm so glad that you're here. The last time I saw you guys was up on the mountain, and we were making our painted porcelain, which I have totally dove head first into that, and now I'm painting dishes. So at the very end of the video, I'll include a photo of all the things that I've painted for Christmas gifts. So if you guys did do the painted porcelain tiles or whatnot, include a picture in the comments. I would love to see what you create. You guys are so creative. I know it's fabulous. Now today we're gonna make something really, really fun. I have seen this all over TikTok and Facebook Reels and YouTube, and I've wanted to try it. I had all the elements and my paint stash, and then I made an ornament run. So I'm like, okay, now it's time to do it. Today we're going to make what is going to mimic, and I don't know, we're in the conservatory today filming. I don't know if you can pick up the modeling across there, but what we're mimicking is old Mercury glass. Or maybe old mirror that's starting to lose its backing. And I just think these would be so beautiful on the Christmas tree, and they would make great gifts. I know I always say that, but I always think about, you know, things that you're creating with your heart, they mean more, you know, when you receive them as gifts. So I'm gonna go through the basic list of things that you're gonna need, and then we're gonna go through how to put these together. The first thing that you're gonna need is you're gonna need this mirror effect paint, and it comes with this silver cap. That's Rust-Oleum Mirror Effect. And you're gonna need a black paint. I just made a mess. You're gonna need a black paint. Preferably, it would be great if you used, in my opinion, a flat, but I had satin and I think it'll work just fine. This is Rust-Oleum as well. And also too, would really encourage, just gonna get super messy. I don't know if you can see my hands, but this is after a couple scrub-ins. And I am gonna go see the Christmas lights with my grandkids tonight. So hopefully my fingers won't be silver by the time that I go. But you're gonna need some vinegar, and don't laugh at me. You can go ahead and laugh at me because it's kind of funny. I only had apple cider vinegar because that's all I used. So I strained out the mother, that's usually in the bottom, apple cider vinegar, and I added water. You're gonna do 50-50. You know, 1 part vinegar, 1 part water. It would be better if you had a distilled vinegar that had a higher acidity amount, because that's gonna cut the paint a little bit better. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you, we're gonna try to mimic the modeling of old Mercury. And then you're gonna need some ornaments. These are plastic from Dollar Tree, $1.25. You can't beat that. Would a glass ornament be beautiful? 100%. But this is what I had, and this is what we're gonna use, and I think it's just fine. The upside of having a plastic ornament is they do look very breakable, but they're not. And I have a whole tribe of grandkids, and some of them are very, very little, and we play and horse around when they're here, and so these can't break, but they look breakable, and I love that. You can get a bunch of different shapes at Dollar Tree, and we're gonna do all of these. There's some smaller ones, which I probably should have started with, because when I start a project, I go through it from start to finish before I start filming for you, because I wanna make sure that it's successful. I wanna make sure that all the steps going forward work. So, and I'm so glad I did, because I had some big veils going out of the shoot. And one of them was, I took my spray paint, the mirror finish, and I took it and sprayed it in, and I swished it around and I covered it, and it was beautiful. And then I turned it upside down, just like this. These are still kind of wet on the inside. I turned it upside down on my egg carton, and I let it dry. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna have this beautiful effect. But in reality, it all drained out, and it looked like it did before I sprayed, and all the paint was down in the egg carton. So what we're gonna have to do, and that's why I melted this one, is because we're gonna spray and we're gonna swish it around. And as I'm swishing it around. I'm gonna have my heat gun about out here on high, just blowing it. And what that'll do is that'll dry it and it can't go anywhere. My next step is, and then we'll go through these steps, is then I'm gonna take, after I get enough, and you're gonna have to do this 2 or 3 times before you kind of built up enough mirror that then you can take the vinegar and you're gonna do a couple sprays in there and you can see it, you know, kind of eating away at the mirror, which is what you want. Then you're gonna dry it again. You're gonna dry that vinegar on there just like that. Then you're gonna come back. You're gonna do your spray paint and you're gonna do the exact same way. You're gonna just keep turning it. And unfortunately, my heat gun is industrial strength, and so it's gonna be hard to hear. So I will off camera do the drying, but I'm gonna show you exactly how I'm doing it. You know, I'm just swishing, I'm moving, I'm spraying, and then I'm checking to see. And you also wanna bend it down in here this way once you get to the end of your puddling, because you don't want it to come out, and then get this top part. You can see this one's a good example where I got up in there really good. So it's good really to do a practice run, and if you do these, you know, it's $1.25, it's not that big of a loss, but I would maybe start on a smaller one, and I probably should have done that. The other thing too, because we're using spray paints inside because it's really cold here today, it's 34 degrees, and it looked like it was spitting snow when I went up to feed the hens. So we're inside. But I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't open a window until just a little bit ago, and it's not healthy and not good. And so, yeah, make sure you have proper ventilation. So we're gonna start with this. Now too, you're gonna remove the top to your ornament, the little silver piece, the little 10 piece, and just lay that little baby aside. We're gonna come back with some rub and buff, and we're gonna make that look like an old crunchy looking topper. I even have some gel stains that I can use as well to kind of dab on there with the paintbrush. Or you could just take the easy route and you could spray these either silver and, you know, maybe just take a dry brush of black across and it'll pick up all those little reliefs. But really the sky's the limit how you want to finish these. And honestly, they would look fine just like that, but I just thought it would be fun just to take it all the way. We're gonna take it all the way. So rub and buff, if you've never had this in your paint stash, get on Amazon and get some of this for yourself. It's great. It comes in all different finishes. I believe this one is antique gold, and this is like a brighter antique. This is a gold leaf, so it's a little more bright gold, I would say, and this one is antique gold. So this is probably the one we're gonna use. Okay, so we're gonna make this initial spray, and then I'm gonna go off camera, and we're gonna do the 3 layers. So I'm gonna do the initial one on camera so you can see what I'm doing. So make sure you're all shaken up. And again, this is messy as all get out. Yeah, it's not ideal to be doing this in my dining room. Not a good idea. But we're gonna make some pretty ornaments. And you can see how it's not wanting to stick to the plastic. It doesn't want to, but we're gonna talk it into, and I'm gonna get a good coverage before I go over to my heat gun, and I might even add a little bit more, and I'm trying to get up into the nook of it up in here, and I'm continually moving around. Now, if you didn't have a heat gun or a hair dryer, you're probably just gonna have to do this until it dries and maybe do smaller amounts. But a hair dryer probably would be the best, because my heat gun, like I said, I got a little too crazy and I melted it. So also too, what's gonna happen with this, the more layers that you have on this, the more mirrored effect it'll have. So it's trying to coat the plastic. So I'm gonna go over and grab my heat gun and I'll be right back. Okay, all right. I did want to also make a note of, I thought I would get clever and it wasn't a great stop. I'm like, do we really need the vinegar step? because you kind of look at it like this, where it's all lacy, and I'm thinking, why don't I just put the black on after that? But then this is the one that you can see at the top, it almost looks like scratches. So we are gonna use the, we're gonna put another coat of this on before we do the next step with the vinegar. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna coat it good. I'm gonna coat it, make sure I have enough in there. And it's all about just layering. And I'm sure there's a million different ways to do these, I'm sure of it. But this is the way that I found works. Okay, now I'm gonna take my apple cider vinegar and I'm gonna see how that made this right now. You wanna get it right over to the heat gun. Okay, we have this dried, and look how beautiful it is. It's a mirror, really. But there's a little apple cider vinegar. You can see that's not paint. That's just vinegar coming out. So then we're gonna do, I'm not gonna dry it again. It'll be a little damp with the vinegar and that's fine. This is where we come in with the black. And now we're going to, now here's what I said too. I go in with a generous amount of the silver and I get to it. But you can take that in smaller steps. Just kind of get the hang of the road, you know, and do what's easiest for you. But after you kind of get the hang of these, I think you could probably make quite a few of these in one day and see how that just changes that right away. I love this. Now I'm going to go back to the heat gun. I'm going to swirl, swirl, swirl. Okay, here she is in all of her glory. Look how beautiful. And you can see at the bottom, it almost looks like it's worn off. The backing to the mirror, the old Mercury glass. I mean, it's not too shabby for a plastic ornament for $1.25. Now we're gonna set this to dry. And I'm gonna put my little reject over here out of the way. I set him right here. So we can work on these two little ladies. I'm gonna set this one here. Those are the ones that we learned from. But I think we have the hang of it. Now we're gonna work on the one that looks like a bulb as well. While those two are kind of drying. And again, I'm just gonna take the cap off. And again, keep the cap because we're gonna age that up. And again, I'm gonna go in with my spray paint. That's supposed to be mirrored. Going in. I think my lungs might be mirrored. I think I've breathed in too much of this. I probably should have a mask on. Now some of your work you can get it done right here and then go immediately to the gun. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over there and work on that. I'm gonna get a little more in there. Okay, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna put a little bit more in this, and then that's when I'm gonna add the vinegar. So you get the hang of this. You'll be wonderful at this. And let's just get a good coating of there before we add the vinegar. And what's interesting, when you take the heat gun or the hair dryer, you'll see the paint drying, what it'll leave behind the apple cider vinegar in my case. But hopefully you'll have distilled vinegar, which I think probably is a little more effective. So I'm just gonna get this in here where I need to. And then I'm gonna take my vinegar. And that's what kind of splotches it up. And then you need to get to your heat gun quickly. Okay, now it's funny because there's the apple cider vinegar again. You'll see that there's no paint. It's just the vinegar, and that's the one thing you would think that the vinegar might evaporate off first, but it doesn't. So usually when I can smell the apple cider vinegar, this is dried on the inside. So now I'm gonna take again the black, and I'm just gonna repeat the heat gun scenario. And while you're putting the vinegar in there, is you're wanting the paint to come off in spaces. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. Goodness gracious, that's beautiful. Ooh, I'm gonna dry it, I'll be right back. Look how beautiful. It's beautiful. This might be my favorite one. And unfortunately, this is the only one that I have like this. So I wish I would have gotten more. I may have to go back because this is beautiful. So we're gonna let this dry for a minute. And again, I'm just setting them up like this just to kind of let them finish their thing. And we're gonna concentrate on these caps so they look nice and crusty and amazing. And also too, I wanted to show you on my boo-boo, see how you can see through it still? Like if I put this stick through it, you can still see the stick, see? That's what happens if you don't use the hair dryer, the heat gun. It just slides on out. Okay, so we're going to work on this little guy. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to, hopefully I didn't get that on my rings. I'm just going to use my finger. Now I'm not gonna use this tie that comes with it. I'm gonna actually use a ribbon, but you can use it to kind of hold it with, and that'll be just fine. And I'm gonna use a little bit of the rub and buff, and then I'm gonna use a little bit of this black. Are you guys ready for Christmas? By the way, I wanted to thank you guys for your lovely comments. They really mean so much when you guys leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love hearing about you and what you're up to and where you live. I mean, not literally, but you know, the region that you live in. And a lot of you I've become very good friends with. So thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. I know I'm a little baby one, but I really, really love spending time with you guys. I hope your Christmas is, the Christmas season has started wonderfully. And we're gonna go see the lights tonight with my 2 youngest grandchildren. So that's tonight, we're looking forward to that. Okay, so you can see how that kind of just changed it a little bit. And we're gonna let that dry. Actually, I'm gonna take the heat gun to it. Gloves probably would be a good idea too, but I'm terrible about that. I need to do a better job. But I think what I'm gonna do too, I'm gonna heat gun this, and then I'm going to take some of this black paint. I may do that right now. Then I can kind of blend it. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on my tray. Use that as my palette. You know what? I'm gonna heat gun this first. I'm gonna go with my initial thing because then I think I can dry brush the black. So I'll be right back. Okay, that little lady's dry. And we're gonna be able to take some of this thing. And again, it's just an experiment. I'm trying to age this up a little bit, maybe a little more of this. And again, this tin is so shiny on this. The paint doesn't like to stick very well. I'm gonna let some of the gold stick through. And there it is, guys. So I'm gonna take the heat gun to this, and then we're gonna pop this on this little lady. While we're working on that though, let me do this one very quickly. This one I will need to keep the tie on, but I think this one I might just hit with the black. And then I'll highlight it with the rub and buff. And just go in there like this. get that plastic part too. I'm gonna have to get Goo Gone to get all this paint off of me. I never learn, do I? Here we go. Are you guys doing anything fun leading up to Christmas? You guys taking any trips? Doing anything fun? I like to stick around. I like to stick around home and bake and anything with the grandkids. I always say yes, and I'm always so honored when they include me. So I think we're going to just let this dry here for a minute, and then I'll come back with some rub and buff on those edges. Let me get this one a little bit more. I'm just gonna hit these peaks. Make it look old. Now make sure you guys hit your notification bell, because we're gonna be making something really, really fun this next week that I think you'll love. And I've been kind of prepping for it. I did a practice run the other day, and again, it was a learning curve, but I think you guys will love it. And it's actually would make a wonderful keepsake for your Christmas things. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna take the heat gun to these two little rascals, and then we're gonna assemble these, and you'll see the final project. Okay, so we have these little guys all dried. Oh my goodness, look at my hands. They're silver and gold, silver and gold. So this one, I'm gonna put on this. Oh my goodness, look how pretty. Look how pretty. $1.25. Just saying. You could also personalize these too, because the painting is all on the inside. You could personalize something, like even use your IOD transfers, you know, some sort of Merry Christmas scene, anything. The only thing that I would recommend is you use like a glass one for that, because I don't know, when you do the burnishing, I don't know if you'll indent the plastic. I don't know, we'll have to do an experiment. And then this one can go on this. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to use Goo Gone for days on my fingers. Why are those so tricky? And then I'm gonna cut this off because I think we can do better. I think we can do better. It's so pretty. And then we can use a little rub and buff. Go back over it. And maybe just hit the edges around here just to make it look like some of the finish got rubbed off on it. Because where things get handled a lot, that's where the paint's usually missing, or sometimes it's dirt, but usually in antiques you'll see that the edges of things are worn. What do you think? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish the top for this one. Here's the other thing too. Let me see if my hands are clean enough, and then we can go into that. You can use all sorts of ribbon that you have. There's some black, depending on the theme of your tree, but look how beautiful that would be with that. And I'll style a few. My tree, we're Scottish, and so I do a Scottish tree. You can even do that. But definitely the slate blues and the blacks are absolutely beautiful. So I'm gonna style a few that way. And then I'm gonna put a ribbon on this as well, so it kind of hides the hanger of that. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this project. It's super easy. You just really need a few elements: black paint, gold leafing paint, or mirrored paint, And again, you could use a metallic. I did experiment with that as well. That actually is why this has a gold hue, because I wanted to give you guys some options. And then vinegar in a spray bottle. And again, I use rub and buff on the lids, but you could just paint them black, or if you have gold metallic paint, you could do that. You could spray it with the mirrored effect, which I think, you know, if you're wanting it to look old, I think this probably does a better job of it. So I'll take some close-ups of these so you can see them, and then make sure you come back. We're gonna make something really fun that'll be a great heirloom. That'll be this coming week that I'm super excited about. I've already been working on it, and last night I came in from my art studio way too late because I just couldn't stop. It's gonna be beautiful and epic. So make sure you hit that bell, and if you can, hit a like. It'll help me, my little baby channel, give it a little boost up into the YouTube river. But I love you guys. Have a great day. Have the best into your week, and I'll see you next week.